All right, so I'm Saeed. I'm a learning coach for the Office of Professional Development.
I'm Suzy Evans, Instructional Coordinator in Curriculum and Assessment.
And we're going to talk to you today about the science of learning practices and how you can embed them into your classroom instruction. So science of learning is essentially the understanding of how we process, how we intake and retain information. And when we learn how we actually learn information, we can focus on high leverage strategies that support long-term learning so that we can battle the forgetting curve and we can focus on actual productive struggle, which helps us remember more. That journey of I don't know, I think I know, and then I definitely do know. And Suzy and I, from our classrooms to our professional development courses, use these science of learning practices like retrieval, interleaving, spacing, and feedback-driven metacognition in everything that we do for our teaching repertoire to support our students and adult learners.
Here's an example of how you might embed retrieval, spacing, and interleaving in your classrooms. Low-stakes trivia games are a fun format for activating retrieval with students. And we are actually going to bring you in on this action today. In honor of Tax Day, we thought we would pull a fun April 15th fact. So what is the name of the album Willie Nelson made to cover his tax debts? And this is the name of it. Any Willie Nelson fans out there?
And we know that you probably, this one is not working, can I steal that? Thank you. So you're probably already doing a lot of these practices in your classroom already, from exit tickets to turn and talks. But we want to make sure that you're thinking about it intentionally.
So the big shift, though, that needs to happen first is we need to reframe what assessment means. Assessment actually derives from the Latin meaning of sit beside the learner. It does not mean gotcha, and this is our favorite mantra. We really need to ask ourselves as educators this question every single day. Are we creating and inspiring learners that are seeking growth and are assessing themselves in order to embed these practices? Feedback loops, both formative and summative, emphasize self-assessment. They emphasize reflection and analysis. And again, you're probably already doing this with things like Google Forms, Schoology, Flipgrid. And multiple feedback loops in different formats is really the key. So when embedded throughout the day, they are the learning. They are the assessment. They are your instruction. So they give the chance to revise and improve and embrace productive struggle.
Oh, the answer is up there. Close your eyes. Use your retrieval power. What was Willie Nelson's album? To pay off his tax debts, and then also do some self-assessment with a thumb survey. Do you confidently remember? Do you think you remember? Or you don't remember yet? A really simple tool to get students to self-assess as well. And we wanted to talk about how we actually encode information. We can do it in two ways. We take in stimuli either verbally, which is taken in sequentially, or visually, where we take in multiple pieces of information at once. And when we do this together, it's called dual coding. Teachers can use dual coding to be able to create two pathways for memory for students. And it can be as simple as pairing a picture with content vocabulary, or it can be taking a visual to be able to take the cognitive lift off of students to retain and organize complex verbal information and keep them out of cognitive load. Because when we pair verbal and visual information together, like using diagrams, concept maps, place value drawings, we're actually allowing students to access their critical thinking and problem solving rather than being stuck in that, oh, how do I make sense of this information?
So in one of the best books on the science of learning, Make It Stick, they talk about interleaving, and they use a baseball analogy. Pitchers, to be more effective, really should mix up their practice of fastballs, curveballs, old school, then knuckleballs, versus massed practice. So in math, as an example, mixing addition, subtraction, multiplication, division versus doing them in chunks is actually more effective for students to remember.
And then implementing daily or weekly retrieval routines, like this verbal retrieval model, is going to help your students remember more so that you are reteaching less. And that's going to give them access to the foundational knowledge they need to go deeper rather than staying at that surface level. And so what we hope is that we've given you a little bit of content to inspire you to reflect on your retrieval practice, your self-assessment practices, and think about how you might use the science of learning to really level up the content in your classroom?
Supposed to not have the answer on there. So don't look at the answer. This was your last chance to pull this out of your brains, and hopefully you can remember that name later. I'm going to ask you like in a week if you remember that. Thank you, everyone.